Hi, I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Rick Dancer TV. On this edition, we're going to take you inside of Splash. In 1989, Willamette Lane built this place, and at the time it was the first wave pool west of the Mississippi. Now there are many more, but not like this one. We're going to take you in, show you the wave machine and a whole bunch of other stuff. We're also going to take you back to 1991. That was the time when Bill Getz, our photographer, and I jumped inside of a little tiny Blazer, and we headed to Central and Eastern Oregon, and we stopped at every ghost town we could find. We're going to show those to you, and as you're going to notice, there was a time when I did have brown hair and a big dark mustache. Watch. I'm not dead. That sounds like something interesting.
Somehow the sound of it beckons us, the ghost town. The words promise a trip into the shadowy world of the Old West. It's not just the tourists who are finding it hard to stay away. A new generation is turning to these relics of the past in search of a future in a simpler world. There are more than 40 ghost towns in Oregon. For the next 3 nights, photographer Bill Getz and I will take you on a visit to 6 of these lonely towns. They stand in mute testimony to pioneer courage, hardship, and sometimes broken dreams. It's almost as if the weathered boards of empty buildings are too stubborn to admit they've been abandoned. And in your mind's eye, it's not too hard to see the buckboards on the streets or hear the music from the old dance hall. We know it wasn't really that romantic back in the days of the early settlers. You worked hard and got little for it. But as Jerry Myers remembers, life was simpler. His kinfolk homesteaded near Sumter in the Blue Mountains of Eastern Oregon way back in 1878. And he thinks simplicity is the magnet that attracts visitors to these parts.
They're looking for the atmosphere. You know, they read the history is a real big thing now. And people come in here and kind of feel it, touch it, see it. Because in those days, we worked hard for what we had, and we enjoyed what we had to the ultimate. We've just kind of gotten away from that, and I think people are really looking to get back to that. They'd like to get a little bit closer to things.
Originally, though, it was gold fever, timber, wool, and the railroad that brought dreamers to live in these isolated valleys and hillsides. Looking at what's left of some of these towns, this was born. You can hardly believe that at one time several thousand people lived here. Saloons, hotels, stores, and homes covered the hillside just below the old mines. The old-timers say the pioneers found what they were looking for. Times were good, at least for a while. But eventually the gold was too costly to mine. The railroads pulled up and relocated, and there was no way to ship the timber or the wool. The glitter in places like granite was beginning to fade. Now it's solitude that attracts residents. Tony Thompson runs the Granite General Store.
But you have to be hardy. You have to be willing to work hard. You pay a price for living up here. It's hard economically. It's hard physically. I mean, just keeping your house in shape going through the winters we go through. Just all those things, you know, you work at it. You don't just come up here and kick back and, oh, well, no problem, I'll just take it easy. That doesn't happen.
When the railroad pulled out of Shaniko, the townsfolk walked away, leaving the city to the tumbleweeds and the sun and the wind. The outside world kept changing. Shaniko just waited, slowly becoming a museum of our past, its legacy as a ghost town starting to take shape.
Filled with wool. They stacked wool in here from, I guess they come clear from the California border.
Now, blacksmith Ron Owens meets lots of people who just stop by to look, listen, and talk about how it must have been.
People say, I wish I could live back in the days that when they had this back in 1911, you know, when the shooting and all the fighting was going on, and there was a lot of that. And back when there was 13 saloons and 5 hotels in town, you know, and 2,000 or 3,000 people, and it must have been pretty exciting.
But a ghost town doesn't have to be old to capture our attention. There's the unconventional ghost town of Rajneeshpuram. 5 years ago, thousands of people lived and worked here for the glory of their guru. Now an insurance company owns the town, but it's home to only a caretaker and his family. All of these ghost towns are a little sad, lonely outposts of our past. But they're no longer just monuments to bad times and broken dreams. The new pioneers have found them and are opening them back up for all of us. And tomorrow night we will look back at some of the history of some of these Eastern Oregon ghost towns. And get your flashlights ready. We're going to take you 600 feet inside of a mine shaft and search for gold.
Thanks, Rick.
Millennials. Lazy, spoiled, entitled, irresponsible. But are we? You know, it's funny though, because that's the same things that were being said about our parents when they were our age. I just don't buy it. All you hear in the media is that the world's going to hell. I want to feel like my voice matters. I want to feel like I have a place in this world. I want to hear about the good things that are happening in the world. So let's talk about all this real stuff. Let's have these conversations. I mean, why not?
We're here with Christine Crutcher, the program manager for Willamette Lane. Everything pools, everything aquatics. It's Christine's job to manage that. So thanks for being and having us in here.
I love having you here.
So 1989, and we all remember that. We all feel very old. We're a fortunate community to have this, aren't we?
Very fortunate, yes. And I mean, it took door hangers and door knocking and everything to get the community behind it, because it was a big deal. It was a $5 million facility at that time, and there was some economic strife in the community, but they believed in it and supported it, and look what they've got. You know, it became the destination point activity that they hoped it would be. We have, you know, probably 200,000 visitors a year, and they come from all over. Post and Bend and Portland and Medford.
So the wave pool, I guess you could say, really has made waves.
I think so. I do, I think so. You know, we have to be sort of that tourist attraction, so to speak, but we also serve the community. So we offer all the things that a community pool would offer.
So the bond is paid off too.
Yes, the bond for this is paid off, which I think the community should be very proud of.
So they own it.
They own it.
So what else do you offer here, Christina, besides the pool?
We put in a regional size playground outside. We have 2 picnic shelters, each of them handle 150 people each. And then we have a basketball court, we have sand volleyball, and we have a 3-field dog park, and one of the dog parks is dedicated for small dogs.
And then in here you also have adult lap pools. You have
Right, adult lap swim, we have water exercise, we do all kinds of private lessons, we have swim lessons. The thing about a pool is it's an equalizer. In the sense, if you're on the basketball court, you have to have a certain amount of skill. But in a pool, you can be a non-swimmer and still have fun, and you can be an elite swimmer and have fun. And when I see a child that learns to float, learns to swim, I know that they're going to be able to participate that in the rest of their life. And as they age, it may be their only option for fitness and health. It doesn't have to just be summer. It's one of those things you can do in the winter when you can't be outside. So that was really the ideal piece about having this be an indoor pool. With the addition of the playground and the shelters and the dog park, it's much more of a park usage is what we see. And then now it's activity around us inside and outside.
So as most of you know, I'm a cancer survivor, prostate cancer, and November is called Movember because we don't shave in November to bring awareness to men's health issues. The American Cancer Society is teaming up with us and you, and we've started a team. We're going to raise money this month for the American Cancer Society. So for more information, you can go to main.acsevents.org/growyourwhisk. If you raise $100 or more, you get a really cool t-shirt with a really cool logo. We'll be telling you more about it.
In an era where newspapers are struggling and a lot of larger papers are dying, we are doing well because we tend to cover things local, and we offer news that people can't get anywhere else. That's our model, is covering local news and sports and anything to do with the community. Journalism and newspapers and other media sources is important because we have the training. Most of the people that I employ have gone to college and studied journalism, and so what we offer is a source of news that can be trusted. It's in an era where everybody's trying to be the first to get the news out. We actually do some research and talk to the sources and get the story and all the details behind the story.
And sometimes they seem like they're listening, but they're really not. World, you need to look us in the eye.
Because we're not mistakes. When you look somebody in the eye, you're not noticing their disability.
It's not okay to be mean to me.
You're not noticing their skin color, their sexual orientation, their political views.
It's not okay to laugh at me.
And I'm important like everybody else is important.
What you're really noticing is what's most important, and that's the person.
Look me in the eye means to me that we're all equals.
I love this because it's going to educate the public how important it is to look us in the eye and to treat us the way they'd like to be treated out there.
I belong here. This is where I belong. This is where I stand.
I want respect. We're no different than any other people. Look me in the eye.
So Rick,
Yeah?
you want to see how the waves are made?
Yeah, I've swam in here a lot of times. I'd like to know where that air
It's
comes
a
from.
secret.
It's a secret?
It's a secret, but I'll show you.
Okay, we're gonna go see.
This is the boiler room. So this is how we have warm water. And our wave pool is 86 degrees, so it's summer year-round in Splash. This used to be filled with one huge boiler, and it aged out. And with the bond election that our taxpayers supported for us, we were able to replace it with 3 condensing boilers that are much more energy efficient. Ultraviolet light.
What does that mean?
What that means is that all the water that goes into the pools passes by that ultraviolet light, and it is a sanitizer. It's one of the best sanitizers that exists currently. We used to have a lot more odor in here, and people didn't like it because of the smell of chlorine. Now with this, you don't have that anymore. These 2 motors, okay, what they do is they generate air, and that air comes through this big flume, goes down into a chamber at the base of the wave pool and goes out into the wave pool.
I mean, this door is literally moving like this because the machine is on, the air is pushing. We can't open this door right now. Look at that.
It's just air. And when we put variable motors on it this last year, we are able to adjust the speed of the motor so we can adjust the height of the wave. We see a lot of little guys, and we can bring it down so that they have a fun experience in the waves too. The contours of the pool widens out. That's why we have rolling waves down here, and then it goes to surf at the other end. It is cutting edge. It's a lot of fun.
Gold mines and ghost towns. The two just seemed to go together. When the word got out that the Blue Mountains in eastern Oregon were full of gold pockets, it brought the miners. They brought their families, and the business people followed. Together they built communities, which now have become ghost towns. Tonight, photographer Bill Getz and I are taking you to a place dreamers once called Golden Sumter. The scars of gold mining are scattered all over the Blue Mountains. This country was once filled with thousands of people. Now only a few call these rugged canyons and hillsides home. They settled near the Sumter Valley after gold was found in the mid-1800s. Millions of dollars worth of color was panned and scraped from these rivers and mountains. Just how many millions depends on who's telling the story. A few folks still mine up in this area, but for the most part, the gold era is dead. Locals say most of today's mining is done on the bar stools. These towns that once depended on gold for their livelihood are now cashing in on curiosity. Visitors will pay to pan for history. Jerry Meyer's family was one of the earliest to call this area home.
Squeeze through.
His kin never left. There was more than gold anchoring the Meyers to these parts.
Fresh air, clean air, atmosphere, people. I don't know, I'm just a mountain man, I guess. I've been here all my life.
Sumter was the largest town. The railroad stopped here, and so did 5,000 people in the early 1900s. When the mines petered out in about 1913, most of the miners moved on. Sumter began to fall. The finale was played out just after midnight one hot August night that same year. Fire broke out in Sumter's business district. The dry and empty buildings offered no resistance, and within a few hours, the fire had burned most of the city's 12-block area and even consumed the wood-planked streets. Sumter was never rebuilt. Only the hospital and a couple of other buildings survived. And of course, the determined people still wouldn't give up. They knew there was still gold in the streams, so they built these monstrous dredges with huge iron buckets that sifted through the river rock, panning for gold. And they did okay for almost 40 years before the color faded. The rusting hulks of the old dredges remain where it ended. The dredging spoils are like tombstones covering the valley floor. Now 150 people live in Sumter. People are coming back. A lot of them are probably drawn by the same thing that kept the Myers family here all these years, the mountains and the good air. Not bad reasons at all. By 1900, several towns had incorporated near Sumter Valley. Bourne was built at the portholes of one of the area's largest gold mines. 1,500 dreamers crowded into this little canyon. Today you wonder where they put them all. Bourne was considered a rather rough mining town. Hotels, saloons, gambling houses, and stories that could keep the campfire going for hours. They called Bourne a hotbed, get-rich-quick gold town. But the mine couldn't supply enough gold to pay back the people who'd invested in it, and people packed up. In 1927, the Bourne post office stamped its last letter. 10 years later, a flood poured through this valley and almost wiped Bourne off the map. This little hillside, now called Granite, grew as a supply town for many of the mines tucked away in the hills above Sumter and Bourne. A few thousand people lived here in the early days. Now Granite is home to 6. There are no phones, few crime problems, and 2 cars might qualify as traffic congestion. And that's what draws people like Tony Thompson, who runs the Granite General Store.
To me, the rewards, looking out the front door and seeing the deer and the elk, and going down the road and watching all the animals, seeing the trees, the streams, the sunsets. Not a lot of people.
An attractive picture, but even Tony will tell you it's not for everyone.
I guess we're all probably cranky, rugged individualists. I don't know what you describe it as. I mean, everybody's up here because they chose to be.
Rugged individualists, good description. Bonnie and Steve Skidgill certainly qualify.
We do it because that's what just the 2 of us can handle anyway.
The 2 burrow themselves inside this 600-foot-long hole in the mountains to mine for gold.
We just had to see what was in that hole, so we just kept digging until we got it open.
Why do you keep doing this?
Got gold fever.
A mine shaft is an eerie place to work for a living. It's cold, very dark. A haunting quiet fills the stagnant air. Bonnie and Steve find the mine comfortable. They say mining in 1990 is not that bad when you consider what the men who started chipping away at this hole had to go through.
It'll do it. Whoops. It can't happen when it's loaded. It's just, going to be pretty heavy. Did you know this much hanging wall come down?
I know, I told you that.
Well, I know, but this is all, quite a bit.
I told you the big slab fell off.
Okay, you guys can really see you can see the vein. The vein itself is looking pretty strong and showing pretty good values, so we'll keep going on it.
The Skidgills are small scale, so aside from a drill, they mine pretty much the way the pioneers did. But remember, this hole was already here when they started. And that's what they used.
That's what the old time was. That and
The hammers.
this hammer was in here.
We put
This is a double jack hammer, with one guy to hold the steel and the other one to drive.
And it's pretty incredible when you think about these old timers doing this by hand.
Mining is hard work, and a lot of it to make it worthwhile. Locals say the less a miner brags about his or her gold, the better their strike. And the Skidgills say very little about how much pay is in this dirt. The people up here say life is easy nowadays. They will tell you they aren't as tough as the pioneers. We wonder.
That was scary. And tomorrow night, we're going to take you to a couple of ghost towns closer to home. Shaniko looks like a backdrop for an old Western movie. In fact, it has been used for a couple of movies a couple of times. And the other ghost town is quite familiar. You've probably heard it on this station many a time. We're going to take you on a trip to Rajneeshpuram.
Well, it gives the kids a safe place to come and keeps them busy, keeps them off the street.
Come here at least 4 times a week. I will grab an inner tube so I can go and ride the wave.
I actually came when they first opened, and so yeah, coming here, even walking now, walking in the doors, the smell reminds me from when I was a child. It was huge. I mean, it was like we almost got like a Six Flags here in our town when this place opened.
I also like going down to the deep end. It's not very far from home, and it's like the beach, kind of.
The park, all the outdoor amenities, as well as this, is just amazing. We can come here anytime because it's indoors, you know, so we can bring the kids during the winter when it's nasty out. My children have been coming here, you know, all of my kids have been coming here all their lives. I'm sure that, you know, many generations of mine will be continuing to come here.
It's really fun.
The more the merrier, right?